Oh, yeah, I wanted to take a bite out of that lesson, out of that gospel. There's a few things of a lesson I've always had written. But knowing about the steward taking back some money, that always changes the story and the whole coloring of it. So remember that the steward had already added his fee on there. And by reducing his fee, his master gets a far better price. Okay? Our lesson today is on Leviticus and Jewish faith traditions that are commanded by God. We don't live by the literal word for word of the Old Testament and the Old Covenants any longer, because we have the new covenant of the New Testament that includes the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. The observant Jews of today follow the very strict guidelines of Leviticus as the instructions for how, when, where, how to prepare the Passover Seder, the observant oblation and libation to and from the Lord. Due to the change in the Gregorian calendar, remember Gregory the Great, Gregorian, the actual dates change each year as the Jewish festivals, as set forth by the Lord, are totally set by moon markings and dates. For instance, Passover is the first Saturday after the full moon of the vernal spring equinox. Easter is the first Sunday. That's why Passover, Pesach, is the same weekend as Easter. Every year, always and forever. Here are the major holidays that correspond with those commanded by the Lord. Please note that some of these are coming up very soon. Okay? Rosh Hashanah. This is the Jewish New Year. This year, it is 25 through 27 September. I am reading this on 18 September. It is celebrated the 10 days prior to the Day of Atonement of Yom Kippur. And it is the last 2 days of the 7th month in the original calendars. Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. This year, it is the 4th through 5th of October 2022. It starts at the sunset of 4, and they will fast 25 hours. It is the holiest of holies in the Jewish calendar, 25 hours of fasting. Its central themes are atonement and repentance. Jews traditionally observe this holy day with a 25-hour period of fasting and intensive prayer, often spending most of the day in the shul or in synagogue services. Yom Kippur completes the annual period known in Judaism as the High Holy Days, or sometimes the Days of Awe. The days from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur gives them time to go to every person that they may have hurt, or to those people that they have sinned against or have caused harm to with a sin, and beg for their forgiveness. For that is their duty during those 10 days. At the end of Yom Kippur, the Lord closes the book of life. If during those 10 days you have not succeeded in removing the sins, the Lord will not write your name in the book of life. Or if he does, he will write that your fate for the coming year is not good. For you want the book of life to say that you are good and faithful, that you are kind to all, and that your fates look good for the coming year. You are going to be lucky, yada, yada, yada. But you want the name in the book to be starred and look good to the Lord. You don't want to be erased from the book of life. Sukkot. It's the feast of booths, Booths, That is 9 October through 16 October here in the United States. So it's the end of the week after Yom Kippur ends. So Yom Kippur ends 5 October. Sukkot begins 9 October. So it's the end of the same week. Sukkot is the Feast of Booths, or the Feast of Tabernacles. It's when Jews are commanded to make a pilgrimage to the temple in Jerusalem. Sukkot will correspond to the full festival of sheaves. The other two are Pesach or Passover and Shavuot, Pentecost, the celebration of having received the Torah from God. Also Sheaves festival in spring. Some of these are very related to an agrarian society. So many of them are not as big as they used to be, or not as important as they once were, because this is no longer a society based upon agriculture. Hanukkah is not a festival required by God. It was created by humans to commemorate the rededication of the Second Temple after the Maccabean revolt in the 2nd century before Christ. Purim, a human-created festival to commemorate the deliverance of the Jewish people in the ancient Persian Empire from destruction in the wake of the plot by Haman. This you will understand if you read the biblical book of Esther. Pesach, Passover, commemorates the story of Exodus, in which the ancient Israelites were freed from slavery in Egypt. Passover begins on the 15th day of the month of Nisan, the first month, in the Jewish calendar, which is spring in the Northern Hemisphere, and is celebrated for 7 or 8 days. It is one of the most widely observed Jewish holidays. Please note, the Festival of Sheaves is now a minor holiday, as the culture is non-agrarian. It occurs in accordance with the area's seasons of harvest. So this will be different for Northern versus Southern Hemisphere. Most of the festivals that we as Christians are most familiar are not among those created by the command of God. Shabbat commands and requirements for all Jews, regardless of conservative, orthodox, or reform. For those who observe or keep kosher, this has a great deal of work to maintain these laws. The Jewish law forbids the consumption of meat or dairy products together at any time. The waiting period between eating meat and eating dairy varies by the order in which they are consumed and by community. It can extend for up to 6 hours. The use of dishes, serving utensils, ovens, etc., may make food forbidden that would otherwise be kosher. Utensils that have been used to prepare non-kosher food, or dishes that have held meat, are now used for dairy products, render the food forbidden under certain conditions. The Torah does not give specific reasons for most of the laws of kosher. However, a number of explanations have been offered, including maintaining ritual purity, teaching impulse control, encouraging obedience to God, improving health, reducing cruelty to animals, and preserving the distinctiveness of the Jewish community. The various categories of dietary laws may have developed for different reasons, and some may exist for multiple reasons. For example, people are forbidden from consuming the blood of birds and mammals because, according to Torah, this is where animal souls are contained. In contrast, the Torah forbids Israelites from eating non-kosher species because they are unclean. Some sects forbid all of a type of food because one form is forbidden or at one time was forbidden. For example, Ethiopian Jews are banned by all shellfish, though not all is forbidden. To maintain a kosher house is a substantial commitment to one's faith and God, for it affects how and what you eat away from home as well. In areas where there are not large communities of Jewish people, there will be no restaurants that keep kosher in their methods of cooking, in their cleanliness, and in their food handling practices, or in their meat butchering. The same is true for Muslims finding places with meals prepared to halal standards. The options remaining are salads of just greens, and sometimes a tuna or chicken salad sandwich if the proteins came out of a can. All canned tuna is both kosher and halal. All canned chicken is butchered kosher and halal. These are nearly identical requirements, and they are cooked to kosher standards. They carry a seal showing it is parev, P as in Paul, A-R, E as in Edward, V Victor, E Edward, which means it's okay kosher, or it will show a letter U or a letter K in a circle, meaning observed by a rabbi and declared parev or kosher. On a side note, the author, Faye Kellerman, has an observant, conservative Jewish detective as her main character, and his wife with him as a focus for the entire series of a very popular and generally quite good detective series novel. These are good reads, but highly instructive too, for life while keeping kosher, living a demanding job while observing a demanding faith.